Okay. Hello, Yoran. Welcome to Live Talks. Listeners, we have Yoran joining us from Europe. He has an interesting background. I let Yoran actually introduce himself.
That's fine. Okay. So, hello, I'm Johan. I call myself an interaction developer. I work for a grocery chain in the Netherlands as a front-end developer, or transitioning into something else right now, professionally at least. I'm a husband to my wife Lydia. I have a son named Joep. He's 9. I have a daughter named Lena. She's just 6. I live in a rural area in the Netherlands, and I love to cycle because Dutch. I love photography and travel, and that's basically
That's
me in a
interesting.
nutshell.
Yeah, that's why you're portraying a lot of plants signifying the rural area. That's fun. So, Yoran, tell me, you mentioned that you went to public speaking event accidentally and now writing a book. Like, what's the biggest risk you have taken in your life and how it has spanned out new opportunities for you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the biggest risk is actually not necessarily in that area, but more like I mentioned that I like photography.
Okay.
Um, this is an anecdote, so I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But you need some background for this. So I make photos and I post them on. Unsplash is a platform where you can post them and people can use them. And I was contacted by people from America. I live in Europe. I was contacted from people from America, from Texas, and they had a canal cruise boat in the north of France. So these are 3 different countries already. And they wanted to have a photographer for that boat because the boat was just refurbished and they needed new pictures for promotional purposes. And they contacted me and they said, well, can you come over and shoot some pictures? And I thought, well, I am just an amateur photographer. I do have a camera and I know how to click and I know a thing or two. But I was a bit hesitant. But my wife said, well, you should just go because you make you make pretty good pictures. They selected you based on those pictures, so it will be fine.
So, where have
And
you posted these pictures and how did they discover you?
I think via unsplash.com. That's
Okay.
a royalty-free photo sharing space.
Did
And
you
there
have
you
like a
can
lot
list
of
yourself.
views? Did you had a lot of views? Were you like a celebrity there?
Well, I don't know actually. I did a review of my pictures last year, and I have a total of I have it here in front of me 26 million views in total of all the pictures that I posted there. So a lot of views, I guess, and
Okay.
some are successful and some are not so successful.
Mhm.
But I did not consider myself a professional photographer, or at least somebody that other people would want to pay in
Mm,
order to do their
sure.
shoots for them. But in the end, I went and it was fun. We stayed there for a couple of nights and we shot pictures of the boat. They were happy. And this is an anecdote in an anecdote. So the boat was originally from the place that I now live in. So
Okay.
I'm not sure how it ended up in the north of France, but I live in Veghel. That is a really small town
Hmm.
near Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And somehow that a boat traveled all the way to France a couple of years ago, and then I traveled there to shoot some pictures. And yeah, that was I think a crazy adventure. And maybe that was the seed that led me to just say yes to any opportunity that presented itself, because I think this was the first main risk that I took, which paid out because I think it was a good experience for me. And as far as I know, the customer is still happy with the photos that I took.
That's
So I
great.
think
Yeah,
that's a
that's one of
win-win.
the reasons. Yeah, like when I was like selecting folks for podcasts, you said saying yes because sometimes all it takes is to show up, and then you never know how the new doors open up. So, what other saying yes have like saying yes kind of like things fall in your portfolio, and how it has made you the who you are today?
Yeah, then I think the next big thing or big change was the first public speaking event that I did. And it was also accidental, or yeah, I wasn't really planning on it, but it just happened, and I just let it happen as well because I was interested, and I was okay. So let me tell that story as well then. So we use in our organization, we use Vue, which is a web framework where you can build interactive applications, web applications with. And there is a big conference in Amsterdam in Europe every year, and it's one of the biggest in the in the European space. And we were representing ourselves as a company there. And that was a colleague of mine who initiated that. He was planning on giving a talk about how we at our company use Vue and all of its favors to run our e-commerce. But then his wife got pregnant, and her due date was in the same week as that event would be.
Okay.
So at some point in time, he approached me and he said, "Well, I may have a problem at that point in time. So maybe you can help me out with being an understudy for the presentation. So at least I know that somebody can cover me if I can't make it."
Sure.
And I said, "Okay, that's fine. We can work on this." So we started to work together on the presentation, and that went well. And then at some point in time, we spent so much time preparing the presentation. I thought, well, if we are spending so much time with it, I want to be on stage as well, because now I think I know the contents just as well as the other guy, and I've invested so much time that I want to be on stage as well. And so we came to an agreement that we would do half and half. Okay. So I did the first half, he did the second half, and it was a blast. It was just so much fun to do that. I never did it, and it was not a small conference. Like, it was a big theater in Amsterdam. And it had, I believe, 1,000 seats, and the room was pretty full. So it was also like, just thrown in the deep end and start swimming. But it didn't went as good as I envisioned it beforehand, but it went okay. It was good enough. And I really liked it. So that then led me to investigating. So what can I do more with doing these talks? And I started to provide topics to other events, and that led me to speak at different events in that same year as well. Okay. Which was just also really fun to do, and all new experiences just by that one yes.
You became a pro
at the beginning of this story. Yeah.
So tell me, were there some challenges, like, or were you very comfortable from day one writing? Because speaking at an event is not like, it does take time, energy, and you need to select a topic, you need to prepare a presentation. So would you how were you able to, how did you navigate all of this when you were doing it for the first time, and then many more you were able to do in the same year? And
so
how did you make a strategy or a framework? Like, okay, now any conference comes, I need like 10 days to prepare, and this is my protocol. I'm sure you would have done something like that.
Well, you would be surprised. No, I do have some sort of structure. But I think one of the characteristics that I have is that I have some form of structure, but not too much.
Okay. A rigid structure doesn't work.
I think that helps me.
Yeah.
That helps me in a way. But for that first time, like, we were both pretty nervous, because we knew that it would be a big stage, a big event, and for both of us, a first time event. So we spent a lot of time preparing and getting it right. We did some internal presentations, fine tuning, again revisiting old slides and whatnot. So that was for the first one. We just practiced it until we knew it backwards and forwards, but we did not. It wasn't like like a repetitive story. Every time we told the story, it was a different story with the same meaning, so we had some freedom or some. We were comfortable with the contents, I would say. Okay. So we could improvise a bit. I think that really helped, because we were at the end of the day of the conference, so we could just circle back to stuff that other people were saying before us, and I think that worked out well. And the other events, there was a solo gig, so I just prepared it the way I did the other one, less structured, but it all went well. So I think that's how I do things.
How do you start? What's your like what is your like structure? Like you start first, of course, with who's the audience, what is the conference about, and you
Yeah,
start like outlining, like what's your process?
yeah, those are good questions, and I do pay attention to that type of structure. So every time that I sit down to do a presentation or to give a talk, I do make sure that it is tailored to the audience, and that the in this case it's a technical topic mostly, so that at least the audience has enough technical context, or and if not technical, then other context to understand what the talk is about. And what I tend to do right now, at least, is to keep the topics a bit more generic, because usually, if you're talking about tech, then it either fits your scenario perfectly, or it doesn't fit at all. So I'm I think more of a storyteller, to give you some inspiration on how to handle challenges on a higher level than just solving it with code, because yeah, code differs from person to person, even, and from organization to organization, everything is different. So I think it's more of making the talk a bit generic so that it fits everybody's context. I think that's key. And what I then usually do is I start with, okay, so this is basically what I want to tell, bullet points, and then I expand those bullet points into slides, and I then expand those slides with notes again, and then it's a process of remodeling the slides, revisioning, maybe shuffling, trying to add a bit of jokes or tomfoolery in the slides, to keep everybody's attention up here. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Sounds fun. Yeah. So you also mentioned you're now writing a book and things like that. How did that happen?
Yeah, again, somebody asked me, and I said yes.
How people
This is
find you?
this is a reoccurring theme now. Yeah, so to my best understanding, this was all the result of me doing all of these public speaking events
Mhm.
last year,
How
and
many
just
have you
being
done?
more. Sorry,
How many have you done? Just sorry to interrupt you. How many have you done? Public speaking.
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah, mostly, yeah, Dutch and online. Yeah,
If there is something in English, share with us. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying if some of this talk is in English, if any of the talk is in English, do share the link.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Remind me that I can send some over. Yeah,
Sure.
not a
Yeah,
problem.
sorry, I
Yeah,
interrupted you. Please go ahead with how do you like who found you where?
yeah. So there was in the beginning of this year, and I at some point in time I got a call by a publisher, and they are I'm not sure. Can I say the name? I'm not. If
To
that's a,
you.
it's a publisher. It doesn't really
Okay.
matter. But they publish books in the tech space, and they approached me and said, "Well, are you interested in writing a book with us?" So I gave it some thought, because I imagine that it takes a lot of time, and so I did discuss this with my wife as well, because this is in my free time. And then I thought, well, why not? So I can just say yes. And so I think this is because of the visibility that I generated the year before. Yeah, that just
That's
landed this
awesome.
opportunity. It just fell in my lap, to my experience, or that's at least how
Congratulations.
I experienced it. And that's, yeah, I think that's so crazy of these last couple of years, and I'm not sure if that's sort of a mindset change from my side, or just that everything the stars align. I'm not sure, but I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, they say if your mindset changes, then the stars also are aligned. You know, if the it's like what if the stars are aligned but you are not ready, then it doesn't help. And the other way, of course, but yeah, I think stars are usually aligned, but we are the ones who don't see it. So yeah, any other interesting thing that happened after your photography gig, or they're all like not related now?
Um, No, that actually that just sort of fell flat. And but I do notice. So I think I have a lot of interest. I'm not sure if it's too much, but I find a lot of things interesting at least, and I cannot spend all of that time and effort equally to all of those topics.
Sure.
So what I found is that like I'm not doing photography now for half a year because I was doing talks, and I do see that in like I post on Instagram every now and then, but I haven't posted in like half a year. So I see that the engagement is just it just drops immensely because I'm not really doing it right now. So that sort of ran into that end.
Sure, yeah. And you can't be doing everything in one go if you write book. So tell me, what's a nugget of advice you want to give to people other than saying yes, and how sometimes, you get opportunities and rather than saying, oh, am I good enough? Should I be doing? Just go for it. And, generally, most likely find a way, even if you're not perfect. If you do, you will become perfect. Otherwise, if you won't do, you will never even know what it takes to actually do, and you will never become perfect. What any other advice from your like this kind of experience?
Yeah, I think exactly what you just said, to be honest. You can, if people ask you to do something, then they've already validated that you are fit for that type of job or profile or whatnot, whatever. So if people ask you to do something, then it is very reasonable to assume that you can actually do it, and yet you're good enough to achieve what everybody is asking of you. So that would be my, apart from saying yes, it is also say yes because you probably can, and if you can't, you will figure it out, because there's like in this day and age you can learn everything from YouTube, or like there's so much knowledge. If it interests you and you don't know how to do it, you will learn. If it interests you and you know how to do it, you can just do it. There are, there's no good reason. There are some reasons, of course, but there's no good reason to say no to something that you want to do. I think that would be that's a good one-liner,
I
by
love
the
it.
way.
Yeah, totally makes sense. For example, this podcast, I was a radio talk show host first time in my school when I was like in class 9th, and then in New York. And I just gave audition and was like, okay, you're selected. And people were like, did you prepare for it? I was like, no, this is something I want to do. And now I was just like very busy with my tech work, and work becomes busier. But this is something that I don't consider it as work. This is like, okay, this is something I enjoy. And so someone really motivated me recently, then just go for it, do it. And I don't know where it lands, what happens, no expectations, just do it. And maybe someone will find value, even if it impacts one person's life, that's good enough. And you never know, as you said, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also meeting interesting people like you. So that's the whole goal, right? I'm sure when you were clicking pictures, you never know where it's gonna land, whether if you're doing 100 other things, not everything even lands. So don't have an expectation, right? Something can land, something may not land. Totally agree to it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
Yoran. Your journey has been super interesting. I'm definitely motivated, and all the best for your book and more such gigs. And yeah, I am sure more people will be able to get motivated and would say yes to the opportunities as they come there, as they are like people are reaching to them. And I think one thing which resonated with me, sometimes we doubt ourselves, but you're right. If others are reaching out to you, it means they are finding some value, right? So
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, we all know nothing is perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect in order for it to be good or good enough. Good enough is also fine, because then it already delivers value to somebody else. That's how we collaborate with each other, right?
yeah. Because when I used to write, I would keep everything in drafts, not publish, because this had like my mindset was, okay, this represents me and I want it to be perfect. And those things are still in draft because you're like, okay, I give it up, and then world changes, you change, and then you're like, there are some ideas, and then after a few years, your mentality, mindset changes, and you don't want to go and open those things again, right? So now it's
Yeah,
like, just do it. And whether it's poor in quality, you will improve if you do. If you never do, then you're just like thinking. Yeah, I
yeah,
love
indeed.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good enough is good enough, and
Yeah,
that doesn't have to be perfect in order for it to
absolutely.
be a success.
Yeah, and everything, you can't be perfect in everything. If it's more like it's one life, multi-dimensional life. So if you're perfect in one or two dimensions, others are, you may be perfect or not, but you, unless you explore, you would never know.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, if all of these things that I said yes to are not things that I didn't want to do. So for that photography thingy, even if the pictures weren't a success, I still had an adventure. For the talk at the event, if people walked out of the room, I still did it. Not successfully, but in a way, in a way, I did it. And with the book as well, if one person reads it, I still have written a book about something that I like. So that's still like the expectations can also be not about like how many people you reach or how successful the end result is, but also what you get out of it or what the experience teaches you. Yeah.
I like that. Love it. Yeah. Because we generally measure success by number of views, number of likes, and that's not the real metric. It's more what you have learned, how you feel. Did it energize you? And did it made you a better person, and maybe better person in a way to say yes to more opportunities? That's like the best outcome, right?
Yeah. So the worst thing that can happen if you do that is that you fail, but then you still tried it. So
And you
it's not a
learn.
complete failure. It's
Yeah.
something that you tried.
Yeah.
My kids they're 9 and 6 right now, so they learned how to walk. But the first time they tried, they couldn't walk. But it's a process, and they get better each time. And fortunately, now they can walk, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, that's how you learn, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yoran. It's been a pleasure having you here and learning from your experience. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure being on a podcast. Also, something I never really did, but there's a first time for everything.
It's always the first time.
Thank